In the quaint town of Willow's End, nestled at the base of the haunting Whispering Woods, there stood a house unlike any other, the enigmatic doorway to a darker realm, as the townsfolk had dubbed it, was a towering Gothic mansion with a history as disturbing as the shadows that danced upon its crumbling facade. The story of the house began with its enigmatic creator, Mr. Silas Thornfield, a reclusive man whose wealth and eccentricity were matched only by the whispers of dark secrets that clung to his name like a shroud. For years, the mansion remained untouched, a silent sentinel to the horrors that had transpired within its walls. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones of the peculiar sounds that emanated from the house whispers, that grew more urgent, and cries that pierced the night, only to abruptly cease. The local legend grew stronger with each passing year, and the house grew more foreboding, as if it were feeding on the very fear it inspired. It was on a dare that 5 teenagers, all too eager to prove their bravery, decided to explore the mansion one fateful Halloween night. They were the same 5 that had heard the whispers and felt the chill run down their spines every time they passed the mansion on their way home from school. Armed with flashlights and a shared sense of morbid curiosity, they approached the mansion's infamous doorway, a heavy, arched entryway of blackened oak with intricate carvings of twisting vines and gnarled faces that seemed to leer down at them with malicious intent. The moment they stepped over the threshold, it was as if they had crossed into another world entirely. The air grew thick and cold, and the shadows grew long and menacing. Each step echoed through the vast, empty halls as they moved deeper into the house, the floorboards groaning beneath their feet like the protests of a tortured soul. The walls whispered secrets in a language long forgotten, and the very air seemed to pulse with an ancient, malevolent energy. The teenagers, now trembling with a mix of excitement and dread, stumbled upon the library, a room filled with dusty tomes and cobwebs that stretched from the floor to the high ceiling. In the center stood a large, ornate table with a single book laid open upon it. The tome was bound in what appeared to be human skin, its pages yellowed with age. The title, written in a language none of them recognized, seemed to shimmer and shift before their eyes, as if trying to reveal its sinister content. Unable to resist the siren's call of the mysterious book, one of them, Tim, reached out to touch the pages. As soon as his fingertips grazed the parchment, the room plunged into darkness, and a piercing scream rent the air. The house began to quake, as if the very foundation itself were alive and enraged by their intrusion. The door slammed shut, and the lock clicked into place, trapping them inside with whatever dwelt within the shadows. Panic set in as they fumbled for the doorknob, but it was cold and unyielding. The whispers grew louder, surrounding them, and the floor beneath their feet grew slick with an unseen substance that seemed to beckon them further into the bowels of the mansion. They heard the sound of heavy footsteps, thundering closer, and the smell of decay filled their nostrils, a stench so potent it seemed to cling to their very clothes. In a desperate bid to escape, they scattered through the mansion, searching for any sign of an exit. Each room they encountered held new terrors, flickering candles that cast twisted, elongated shadows on the walls, portraits with eyes that followed their every movement, and a grand staircase that seemed to ascend into the very heavens, yet led only to more darkness. As they climbed the stairs, the whispers grew more insistent, urging them to continue their ascent. At the top, they found a single door, the final barrier before the attic. The handle was cold and sticky to the touch, but the promise of escape was too strong to resist. As they pushed it open, a blast of icy wind rushed out, sending a flurry of leaves and dust swirling around them. The attic was a maze of cobwebs and shadows, with the only light coming from the occasional moonbeam that pierced the grimy windows. In the center of the attic stood a wooden podium, atop which was a glowing crystal, pulsing with an eerie light. The teenagers could feel the pull of the crystal, drawing them closer with an irresistible force. It was then that they noticed the dark, twisted figure lurking in the shadows, watching them with a hunger that was almost palpable. The figure was Mr. Thornfield, or what remained of him. His skin was paper-thin, stretched taut over his skeletal frame, and his eyes burned with a fiery intensity that seemed to bore into their very souls. He spoke in a voice that was a cross between a rasp and a growl. "You've found it, the gateway to the realm of eternal torment." His words sent shivers down their spines, and they realized too late that the whispers had been his all along, guiding them to this very spot. The air grew colder still, and the figure began to advance, the floorboards beneath him groaning in protest. The crystal's light grew more intense, casting elongated shadows across the room. That danced and writhed as if alive. The walls of the attic began to shake, and the windows rattled in their panes, as if something monstrous was trying to break in. The teenagers knew they had to act fast. With trembling hands, they grabbed hold of the crystal, their fingers burning with its cold fire. The room grew even darker, the shadows coming alive and reaching out to snatch at them like grasping claws. The floor beneath the podium began to crack, the house itself seemingly fighting against the ancient power that had been disturbed. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light illuminated the room, blinding them momentarily. When their vision returned, they found themselves standing outside. The mansion, the doorway still open, and the dark, foreboding house looming before them. They had no recollection of how they had escaped, but the terror remained etched on their faces. They turned to one another, their hearts racing, only to find that one of their group, Tim, was missing. His fate remained a mystery, lost to the darkness of the mansion. The four remaining friends stumbled back to the safety of Willow's End, forever changed by the horrors they had witnessed in the enigmatic doorway to a darker realm. The townsfolk spoke in hushed whispers of the night the five had dared to enter the mansion, and of the one that never returned. The legend grew, and the house continued to stand, a grim sentinel of the horrors it contained. Weeks passed, and the townsfolk held a somber vigil for Tim, whose fate remained a terrifying enigma. His absence cast a pall over Halloween, and the once thriving spirit of the holiday was replaced with a palpable dread. One night, as the moon was new and the town lay shrouded in darkness, a single candle flickered to life in one of the mansion's topmost windows. The light grew stronger, and a figure could be seen, pacing back and forth. It was Tim, or what was left of him. His eyes were now the same fiery orbs as Mr. Thornfield's, and his skin was as pale and translucent as the pages of the book that had once held them captive. The figure at the window beckoned, and the four survivors knew with a chilling certainty that they had not truly escaped the mansion's clutches. The enigmatic doorway to a darker realm had claimed Tim, and it would not rest until it had consumed them all. The horror of that night had only just begun. Don't miss the chilling conclusion to this harrowing tale. Subscribe now to be the first to know what horrors await. What do you think lies behind the enigmatic doorway? Share your theories in the comments below. If this story has sent shivers down your spine, hit the like button to show your support. This is a horror story you won't want to keep to yourself. Share it with your friends and see if they dare to enter the enigmatic doorway.